We're back. You do the intro.
Okay.
Welcome to the American Field Trip Podcast.
We are talking about things that can help you get into the national parks and enjoy your time there. Today, we're going to talk about how to plan a visit to a national park. So when we started visiting national parks, I had been to 2 national parks and always with people who were kind of directing my time there, never on my own. You'd been to a lot more parks, but kind of as a kid.
As like a kid on a family trip.
Yeah, so your family kind of planned things.
Yep.
So we are also not great at planning, as evidenced by the fact that we moved into the bus and made a very public goal to visit all of the national parks, fully not knowing where in the world some of them even were, like not even roughly. Like American Samoa, we were like, that sounds like it's like by Samoa. Turns out it is.
Our assumption there was good.
Yeah. So there were a lot of places that we did not realize would be so hard to get to. Yeah. But we got to them.
But we've gotten better. We've gotten better at planning.
We've gotten a little bit better at planning. But I will say...
So trust us to tell you how to plan.
No, but I will say we like to kind of say where we're going to go, but not know exactly what we're going to do when we get there. And part of that is because of the nature of the kind of places that we're visiting. We're usually spending almost all of our time outside. Mm-hmm. It's really tough to plan what the weather is going to be like. Not even just big weather things like, is it going to be raining or is it going to be sunny? But like little changes in the weather, even like if it's windy a little bit, can affect what we feel like doing on any given day. Yeah. And especially because we have little kids. Right now we have a 9, 7, and 2-year-old. When we started our park trip, we had a 3 and a 1-year-old. So their needs shifted a lot from day to day.
Children are chaos incarnate.
Yes, the nap needs shifted. And some people just have a schedule that they stick to, but we kind of roll with the punches, which has worked really well, I think, for the most part. I mean, there are days where it absolutely falls apart and it's awful, but
we've learned some things. How you can kind of roll with that and still have a good time.
Also, with national parks, it's a little hard to plan around things like closures of roads, of trails, what's going to be busy on any individual day. Sometimes it's difficult to get permits to the things that you thought you were going to be able to get permits to. So when planning for a national park, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a solid plan of what you want to do and see while you're there. But I think a really good policy is to just be flexible. When you're dealing with anything in the outdoors, you got to be flexible. Yeah. You might not be able to do all of the things that you plan to do. But if you are, if you're cool about it, you can like shift and have a great time anyway.
Hopefully if you're in a national park, it's because you're on some sort of vacation. So just relax.
We lead with that, but it is also really, really important to be prepared when you're going to be doing anything outside. So
some things you can plan for.
Plan broadly, be prepared for all the things, and then shift individual activities to kind of meet what happens on that particular day.
Like if you want to hike, prepare for hiking, but you just might not know which hike you're going to do.
Exactly. So when you are going to be going to a national park, a few big things to check. You do probably need to know where you're staying. We often show up at a national park not knowing where we're going to be staying.
I don't recommend it.
We also live in a van when we're doing that and can kind of, just like find a Cracker Barrel or whatever that's pretty close by and sleep there.
If you're cool with that, great, don't plan.
If you need to be able to pitch a tent in a campsite, or if you need a hotel, you need to figure that kind of stuff out first thing.
We always have more fun when we plan ahead. Like if you can get a nice campground, it's more fun.
That's excellent. If you can get a campsite in the national park, that is ideal. So that's a really good place to start with your visit. Check out what parks have availability in campsites that are run by the park. So you go to recreation.gov, you put in the name of the park, you find the month on the calendar that you could possibly visit, and see what's available. A lot of those fill up really quickly. A lot of campgrounds within parks fill up pretty quickly, especially popular parks like Yosemite, Glacier, Yellowstone, those kind of places. If you are planning to camp there, you should figure that
Call the
out
park
ahead of time and figure out when they release their campsites and get online at that time.
Or go in the off season.
Or go in the off
Or go in the time that no one else wants to go. I really like visiting in odd seasons.
Yes.
I actually really like that. It's less crowded. You see the landscape that you see in pictures and postcards all over the place in different situations. Like maybe there's snow, maybe the leaves are changing.
Totally.
You get maybe it's not, sunny and beautiful every single day, but sometimes that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally worth it. So figure out where you're going to stay. That's an important bit. The nps.gov website has a page for every national park site, and they are indispensable. This is your best resource for planning any trip to a national park. They will have, they will have things that other resources like blog posts or books won't have, which is up-to-date information on closures. Closures are a big deal in national parks. You're working with government bureaucracy and really, really high visitation to a lot of these places and a lot of weather. So roads will go out. We had friends recently planning a trip to Denali and kind of last minute they realized that you can't get very far into Denali right now because
there was a landslide.
The
road is gone and no funding to repair it anytime soon.
So the website will give you information on things like that. A lot of things in parks are only open during certain seasons. So when you're planning, you need to know what the seasonal closures are. And my experience has been that most other online resources and books are not very up to date with that kind of information. The website is also really up to date on campgrounds because there are first come, first serve campgrounds where you show up in the morning and get a site. And then there are ones that you can reserve ahead of time. And that shifts.
Sometimes reserves will have a few spots that are first come, first serve.
Yeah, it changes around and it changes from season to season based on the needs of the park. A lot of them will stay the same, but there are always little changes that can make a big difference when you are counting on something and then you show up and it is different from what you expected.
It seems confusing, but go to the website.
Go to the website and it'll tell you. So they'll have a news and updates section, and then just generally they'll have a places to go, things to do. They'll have lists of hikes. Generally, they will split those into like easy, moderate, and strenuous.
In our experience, they underestimate your ability. They underestimate
your ability. I think that's pretty good policy.
Yeah.
Just based on
they don't want anyone to get in any sketchy situation. So what they say is moderate. It's really moderate. You're not going to get out there and be like, dang, this is hard. Like
if you're a nervous hiker, trust their recommendations.
The easy ones are truly easy.
Yeah, don't count yourself out for those. Yeah. They also will have a lot of information about accessibility, which trails can have wheelchairs or strollers on them. So if you need that is that's the best place to go to get that information.
That's a great way to ruin part of your trip is like, oh dang, I'm in a wheelchair and I cannot get to the thing I wanted to go see. Exactly. Or a stroller, or maybe you've injured yourself, or I don't know. It's that kind of stuff is available on the website. Good to check out.
So the website will have all of the information about things to do, places to stay, what you need to do. They also have articles about the history of the park and the things that you'll see there. I think that's a really good way to pregame for the park, and especially if you have kids whose attention spans might be kind of limited, or if you want to hype up this place you're gonna go to. That learning more about the park is a fantastic way for everybody to get excited and to get more out of your time there. Most parks, well, I shouldn't say most, but many parks, the parks that have the funds to do it, will put out a little newspaper. And you'll get that when you go in and pay your entrance fee or show them your park's pass to get in.
Or the visitor center if there's not an entrance fee.
Yeah, they'll give you a map and then they'll also give you this little newspaper. But they have those newspapers online in PDF format. Those are really great for updating you on seasonal seasonal things that are happening in the park. A lot of times they'll have a list of ranger programs that'll be going on, what's going on at different campgrounds, and just kind of the latest information. So while you're planning, go online, see if you can find a PDF of one of those map newspapers. Those are super helpful. And you can also get usually a PDF of the Junior Ranger booklet. If you have limited time in a park and you want your kids to be able to do the Junior Ranger program, it is not a bad idea if you're a planner to have that printed out and work through that with your kids before you even go so they can get their badge when you go into the visitor center the first time.
Also, a little known fact, well, I guess the Rangers will tell you this, you can mail in your book after you leave and get the badge sent to you.
And that's
if you
it'll
can't stop
say
by the
that
visitor center.
on the back of the Junior Ranger booklet. They'll usually have an address. They'll give you that information to send it in. So the nps.gov website is the best.
It's good.
It's really good for planning. I also like the National Geographic National Parks guide books.
Clearly,
I like to
this
read through
one's
this.
been well used.
This one's been well used. I think this is the 8th edition. I think there's probably newer editions. There have been
There's new
4
parks.
national parks added since the 59 that are represented here. But this was kind of our go-to guide when we were on our parks trip. It gives you a lot of information about different areas. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of information. It gives you condensed information
you an overview.
about different areas of the park, and it'll kind of hit all of the highlights. You can kind of understand what you're getting into and some things that you might be interested in seeing while you're there.
We didn't use this while we were in the park very much, but we used it before. Like when we were
Yeah.
planning, when we were kind of thinking about what we wanted to do, we would use this book all the time.
It's also really helpful to pick out, okay, these are the hikes that we're really interested in doing. So let's try to get into this campground because it's close by. One thing that I think, if you're from the Western United States, you might have a better sense of the distance between things. I feel like a lot of people in like the Intermountain West where we live are very used to having to drive a long ways to get to things.
An hour drive is not a huge deal.
But I think maybe some visitors are unprepared for the distance between things in parks. Some of the parks are really massive.
Cough, cough, Yellowstone. Yellowstone is huge. If you're going to Yellowstone Glacier.
There are a lot of the parks are really big, and a thing that makes a big difference is that you generally cannot drive very fast in parks. If there is wildlife at all, the speed limit is usually
It's like 30,
25,
35, 30.
40.
Not fast.
You're not going to be going over like 45 in almost any of the parks.
Yeah.
So you're not moving at highway speed when you're going places. So when you're planning, just keep in mind that the distance between things can be greater than you expect, that you're going to be driving pretty slowly, and that things usually come up like bison jams in Yellowstone
Yeah.
or Grand Teton, or
We're
there's
really talking about Yellowstone here.
Yellowstone traffic is a thing.
Driving is a significant part of any visit to Yellowstone.
Yeah, or a lot of national parks, really. And in many of them, you will hit traffic. In many of them.
Like Southern Utah parks.
Oh, yeah.
Getting into arches nowadays, huge lines.
Especially if you are, especially just going in, there will often be a line going in. And then you got to factor in time for parking too. Sometimes if the parking is really limited, you'll have to circle around the parking lot. Or you might not be able to park at the lot that you had expected. It's a good thing to talk about with the rangers when you first arrive at a park. Like, hey, we want to do this hike. We've heard that parking there might be kind of tricky. What time do we need to get to that parking lot so that we can get a spot and be able to go? And they have information like that.
And they'll tell you about things like shuttles and other options that you have to access the park.
Yeah.
Most of the busy parks have... They think about this because people are probably yelling at them about it all day long, and so they have solutions for you.
Yeah.
But plan for it.
Plan for traffic, plan for some parking issues, especially if you're going to any park in the high season, any kind of park that's busy.
Prepare
at all,
for
which
it.
Which is a lot of them nowadays.
Bring a snack, settle in. You're on vacation.
Yes.
Enjoy. Get a podcast. Listen to this podcast.
Also, when planning, keep in mind that a lot of the parks are really remote. Fill up with gas before you get close to the park. You might have to top up again when you're right outside or when you're in the park. figure out where gas stations are around. Be aware of that so that you don't run out. And gas can be really, really, really expensive within the park. So always try to fill up and also buy food and whatever you're going to need outside of the park. And be aware of what kind of facilities and resources are inside. Yeah. But know that whatever you get inside a park is probably going to be a little bit pricey.
Yeah. Or just be okay with that. Because that is like...
It's part of
the nice thing about some of these other, like Death Valley. Go to Death Valley. Death Valley's in the middle of nowhere. They have a gas station. They have a couple of really nice restaurants there. They've got a little grocery store. It's all super expensive.
Shop.
But it's real nice. You want to go get an ice cream cone in like the hottest place in the world? You can do that. You can also, buy like $7 a gallon gas or something from the Furnace Creek gas station. But when you need it, real nice that it's there.
But I think sometimes when people have a camping trip planned, they're not anticipating spending a lot of money on some of those things. So just bring
your food.
Yeah, be aware that if you're on a budget, try to do all of those things outside of the park, and then know where you're going to be within the park when you'll need to fill up gas, when you'll need to have a snack or whatever. Know what facilities are within the park, because some of them don't have anything like that available. And many of them are very remote. So you got to think about that ahead of time.
It's good stuff to know.
Yeah.
One thing that we've talked about is just in the spirit of keeping your planning pretty flexible, I think the experiences that I have had that have felt the best, that I feel like we planned for it and went and had a good time, is when you do your research a bit, read some stuff, check out the website, feel out what you're interested in, and then set some priorities. And I like when we go to a park and we can prioritize, 2 or 3 things, or even just one thing where you're going in and you're like, I just want to do this one thing. And if I only do this one thing and then it rains the rest of the time and I don't get to do anything else, it'll be a cool trip. And that could be a particular hike that you're really stoked about. That could be chilling out at the campground, like having a nice camping trip. That could be just, making some nice family memories, spending some time with the family. Just kind of pick the thing that you want out of that particular trip and then make sure that happens at as early as possible. Like prioritize those things and then, do whatever you can on the rest of your list, and things will change. Things will go haywire. Stuff will close. Weather will be bad. Kids will be angry. And, but then you can ensure that you come out of that with a good, enjoyable experience.
I will also say that when we're talking about planning here, we're talking about planning a trip that's kind of within the civilization of a national park. If you are planning anything in the backcountry, you're planning anything in a park that does not have any facilities, that's a whole different ball game.
We're talking a run-of-the-mill driving your minivan into the national park kind of visit.
Yeah, just like your regular basic.
Yeah. We should make another video about planning those kind of trips.
Yeah, because we are very flexible on the kind of trips where you're not going to get into a lot of trouble. On the kind of trips where you could get into very serious trouble.
If you're in the backcountry, it's very different, the planning.
You plan the heck out of that. Yeah. So different situation. But if you're doing a drive-in park with places to stay inside and with regular facilities and with lots of other people around you, this is how we plan.
Yeah.
We really lean heavily on the NPS website.
And the rangers too.
And the rangers.
Shout out the rangers. The websites are good. There is... the rangers maintain the websites, and so some parks have better maintained websites than others, and there's always contact information on the website. And if there's ever any question, or even just want to, talk about what's good, what's like happening at any particular time, call the rangers, call the visitor center.
Yes.
And they are
chat with somebody.
Super happy to help you.
Ask them some questions.
Yes.
Say, do you have 5 minutes that I could get some tips on we're planning a trip here. We want to know what is within our range to do and what we should kind of prioritize. Do you have a minute to chat about that? and pick their brains.
Most of the time they'll be like, yes,
Because they
that's
are
my
brilliant.
job.
Also within the NPS.gov website, every park has a calendar. Some of the parks are better at keeping that up to date than others. Parks are like serially understaffed, so that is an issue. But if you can get on the calendar for the dates that you're going to be there, you should be able to find information about what ranger programs will be on and any other kind of special events. And if you have some flexibility in planning your trip and you can prioritize going during a time when there are some ranger programs, a lot of parks will have a night sky program where in the evening they'll bring out telescopes and have rangers there on hand to talk about. Because a lot of these parks are in remote locations, some of them are designated international dark sky reserves, which is a special designation that you have to do that limits your light pollution that you're contributing, and you can get this special thing. But a lot of the parks just are out in the wilderness, and you'll be able to see a lot of night sky if it's a clear night. So
Those kind of programs are worth, like, it's worth changing the days that you're going to visit to catch something like that.
Yeah, sometimes your campground might have like a fireside program. A lot of those campgrounds have like a little amphitheater or a little area where they put on programs, especially in the evening. It's really worth checking that out and trying to plan your dates around that if you can.
Especially in the off season. If you're going in the off season, they don't do that stuff every day, or they'll do it like a couple of times a month or something like that. Like, it's worth calling, checking their calendar, seeing when there are things, and if those interest you, it's worth modifying your plans to catch that, because that's always really improved our experience.
Especially if it's a historic site. We've been talking mostly about
yes.
national parks in which you would go and camp and spend more time. But if you're going to a historic site,
Or kind of a historic focused national park.
yeah, you got to go when they're going to be having tours, when they're going to be having some kind of special event. We went to Valley Forge right around Washington's birthday.
Yeah, it was on Washington's birthday.
Was it on Washington's?
It was on Washington's birthday.
And
it was President's Day. It was around President's Day.
So they had like, what do you call it? They had like cosplayers, what are they? Like reenactors.
Yeah, cosplayers. Yeah, Revolutionary War cosplay.
But they had like a George and a Martha Washington.
They had birthday cake for George.
Birthday cake and all these like things, and our kids got to meet George and Martha, and they were so cool, and they were
Super
so
fun.
stoked on that. And then there were a bunch of like Revolutionary War soldiers that would take you around the barracks and kind of tell you about things. That experience was leveled up so much more than we've been to plenty of historic sites where you're just showing yourself around and kind of doing the self-guided tour, which is fine. But
Battlefields are cool. Battlefields all kind of look the same.
Yeah, if you can hit that at a time when there's a program, that will make your experience so much more engaging.
Yeah.
So so be flexible, try to catch some of those things that make the national parks really, really special and that help you learn about them and engage with them and have a better experience. And be able to kind of think on your feet and be cool. A lot of them are really busy, so be kind to the other people there. And
You're on vacation. Chill. It's
everything's going to be okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I feel like the busier the national parks have gotten, the more it's become like other places that you travel where like a Disney World kind of experience where you're having to queue for some things and you're having to deal with more people than you might want to deal with on any given day. But with some planning, some flexibility, and especially with knowing what your priority is for that trip, like, hey, we really wanted to just hike into the Grand Canyon a little bit. And if we do that, then we will have and watch the sunset from a viewpoint. If we do that, we will have been cool. Or we just wanted to like spend some time in nature and listen to some birds or whatever. And then if you do that, you will feel, complete.
Then you can fill the rest of your time with whatever is good that particular day, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. We hope you have a good time.
We hope you do.
We hope this was helpful.
The national parks are really wonderful, but I also feel like they are really intimidating for a lot of people who didn't grow up maybe going to them or are not like within a culture where people are doing a lot of outdoorsy stuff or a lot of park visiting. And then some of the people that did grow up in that will be constantly telling you how much better things used to be when there were fewer people there and how like you used to be able to go into Yosemite and you were the only one there and you could always get a campsite. And
I don't think that's ever been true in Yosemite.
But it's fine. You are 100% capable of going to a national park and having a wonderful
Yes.
visit there. And it's less intimidating once you have a visit under your belt. And especially once you, I think, go in. For me, once I had been to a few national parks and seen all the resources that they have to help people figure this out, the national parks for more than 100 years have been a travel destination for families and people coming from a ways away. And they are really, really adept at helping you enjoy your experience and get the most out of it, while also trying to keep the land from being totally overrun. So
Yeah. Say what you will about federal agencies, the NPS stretches your tax dollars a long way.
oh my goodness,
They do a lot of great
You
stuff.
can have a really wonderful family vacation on a budget
Yeah.
at a national park.
Pretty awesome.
So enjoy that. Be grateful for that. Take advantage of the resources that are available to help you figure that out. And yeah, have a great time.
Okay, we'll see
National
you.
parks are the best.
We'll